Why did Blade Runner 2049 fail at the box office, even as critics and audiences fell in love with it? Let's dig into the movie economics behind the sci-fi spectacle. The movie may only be a handful of years old, but it already feels as though time has been kind to director Denis Villeneuve's Blade Runner 2049. The long-awaited sequel to Ridley Scott's sci-fi classic Blade Runner was released in 2017, and at the time, the narrative largely seemed to focus on the relative disappointment of the movie's financial performance. Though the film was well received by critics, its box office failure meant Warner Brothers didn't get the new franchise started they'd hoped for, and producers at Alcon Entertainment nearly went under as a result. Several years after its release, two things are very clear. Blade Runner 2049 is remembered fondly by fans, and thanks to the economics of movie making, Blade Runner 2049 was likely doomed to bomb from the very beginning.
I just have some questions.
What questions?
Before Blade Runner 2049, Villeneuve was a rising filmmaking star, thanks to movies like Prisoners and Arrival, but he'd never taken on a film with the scope and budget of this production before. Fans and critics alike weren't sure what to expect, but it turned out that Villeneuve was every bit the filmmaker audiences had come to suspect he was, even when working on a much larger scale. Blade Runner 2049 was met with absolutely glowing reviews from critics and audiences alike, and was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, winning Best Cinematography for the legendary Roger Deakins. From a purely artistic standpoint, the general consensus is that Villeneuve absolutely nailed it. So what was the problem? Well, the cost associated with this level of artistic accomplishment was far too great, and the business of it all had to come into play at some point. Blade Runner 2049 was released in theaters in October 2017, and pretty much right from the jump, it was clear this wasn't going to be a home run from a business perspective. With a budget north of $150 million before marketing costs, the film debuted with just $32.7 million on its opening weekend, paving the way for a relatively disappointing $92 million run at the domestic box office. International audiences couldn't save this one either. It earned $167.1 million overseas for a grand total of $259.2 million. Given that studios generally only see about half of the money earned from ticket sales, it's crystal clear that the sequel lost a great deal of cash. Plus, sales from physical media such as Blu-ray and DVDs are not what they used to be, meaning that secondary revenue streams weren't going to be enough to rescue this situation. Even with glowing praise from critics, it's clear Warner Brothers and Alcon overestimated how big their audience was going to be. It certainly didn't help that the movie clocked in at nearly 3 hours, which might have turned off some more casual moviegoers. That, coupled with the fact that this was a sequel to a 30-year-old movie that only became a classic through years of reappraisal, was a recipe for financial disaster. There would be no sequel, and there would be no celebration from the studio. Reality proved to be harsh, despite everyone's best intention to deliver a worthy successor to a beloved classic.
Don't you love me?
Put more simply, Blade Runner 2049 was faced with impossible expectations from a financial standpoint. In allowing the budget to climb as high as it did, Warner Brothers and Alcon set Blade Runner 2049 up for failure. Granted, it probably would have been extremely difficult for Villeneuve to craft a sci-fi masterpiece of equal measure with a smaller budget, but spending all of that money didn't gather a larger audience. This comes down to simple dollars and cents, as frustrating as that may be for fans of the film to hear. The movie business, at the end of the day, is a business first, and the art has to service that business. The good news is that despite the movie bombing, it did manage to reinvigorate interest in the franchise. An anime series titled Blade Runner Black Lotus debuted on Adult Swim in 2021, and more TV is on the way. Ridley Scott himself is producing a Blade Runner 2049 sequel series titled Blade Runner 2099 for Amazon, setting up a future in which even more audiences could come to appreciate the sequel film as an artistic achievement. Sure, maybe it was a flop in its day, but time can continue to rewrite the larger narrative. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more SlashFilm videos about sci-fi movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.